BeastNet podcast, sponsored in part by James Safety Services, OCR Buddy, and supported by the fitness community. Here we discuss all things fitness related, running, rucking, mental health and preparedness, and of course, obstacle course racing. Welcome to the BeastNet.
Hey everybody, it's Mike with BeastNet here, and I got with me today Bear. Bear, whoever doesn't know Bear doesn't do enough Spartans, but let everyone know who Bear is.
So like I said, my name is Bear. I am the start line guy at Spartan Race. I've also been previously with Savage Race. I was also with Rugged Maniac before they rest in peace, and as well as Bone Frog. I've been in the OCR industry. Well, my first race in the OCR industry was actually in like 2013 after my discovery of OCR in 2010, but races weren't as big back in 2010 as they were in 2013. No. I slowly, I kind of discovered OCR after being in a hospital from an accident. Back when Facebook, sorry, motorcycle distro, but back when Facebook would show you like everyone's post in one advertisement, now you have like 12 advertisements in one post. So I saw the video of Spartans. Remember the gladiators, the finish line?
Yep.
It's like, that looks fun. I would like to get annihilated by a big, huge guy about the size of Leonidas and just get pummeled. And that's how I just got started.
And see, that's one
I
thing
started doing OCR.
I was gonna say I never actually got to go against the gladiators. I saw them at the first event I went to in 14 in Washougal, and then when I did my first race was 15, and they were gone.
They were gone, yeah. When I first saw the video, I was like, man, it looks pretty awesome. And then the first race I went to, which was down in Miami, because the time when Spartan came to Florida, they only went to Miami. And that's like a 5.5, 6 hour drive. And I was like, I don't want to go down there just for a 5K. And the next year they came out here, they were in Miami again. I was out of town. So, and then when I finally got a chance to run Spartan, again, like you said, the gladiators are gone. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I started, like I said, my first Spartan was Montana in 15. But before that, I'd done a bunch of ones that don't exist anymore. Yeah. Hell Run, the Gladiator Rock and Run was my first one. So the Gladiator, that was the one that was from the, what's his name, the Gladiator guy that did them for a bit. That one was kind of cool because they started with a monster truck. So a monster truck would take off right before you did.
The videos. Yeah. Yep, I remember seeing those videos on YouTube.
And that was the first one I ever did. And then I just kind of, went from there, did a bunch, and then finally did a Spartan in 15. But
yeah, that was funny. Is like when I first discovered Spartan, again, I was in the hospital after a motorcycle accident, and all the videos, like, oh, this looks pretty awesome. When I start feeling better, I want to do it. And then I heard that there was a small local race here in Central Florida that was going to have a mud run. I was like, well, let's go check it out. They called it Mudzilla, which was their first ever race. It was pretty awesome. It was on a farm. The basic obstacles you find of like, handmade stuff you find from like Lowe's and whatnot. But it was a fun experience to get like a taste of what it was like to be in like that thick, nasty peanut butter consistency, thick mud. Yeah. And I was like, this is fun. I've got to do more. And then, I discovered all the other races. Like I was, like the typical, you do one thing, and then you see like a whole entire algorithm on your Facebook and social media pages. And I started seeing more Rugged and Savage Race, and it's all of those whole entire thing combined. And it's just been a rolling thing ever since then. And then it was I want to say it was 20 end of 2017. Like I was trying to figure out a way to save money because I'm like, I want to do these races, but they're getting expensive. And then I saw an advertisement for Mud Run Guide was looking for people to do stories and articles about the races. And they're like, oh, we're gonna do a process of elimination, give us a reason why you should be on the Mud Run Guide team. And I was like, well, I mean, I do a lot of social media stuff. That's pretty much what I can do. I suck at writing, but I've got a mouth. Yeah. And then I started doing that. I started doing the social media, Instagram lives at all these races, showing them stuff, what it was like to be on the course, on their Instagram stories. And then it just kind of blew up from there for about 2 years. And then I decided in like 2018, I was like, I've done everything I wanted to do in the industry. Like I'm not a professional athlete. I'm not a huge runner. Like I don't run 5K in like 27 minutes like some of these guys do. Like I would love to, but I just don't have that. And I decided, like, I think it's time for me to retire and step away for a while. And then somebody says, well, why don't you work in the industry? And I was like, that seems like an idea for Spartan. I had an interview to be part of the audio team and got cut down. That's all. I had no experience, even though I had all these videos that I had showed them. And I was like, no big deal. I mean, maybe I'll try again some other time. But then a buddy of mine who worked for Savage Race says, hey, I saw that you got declined from Spartan. Do you want to come work for us? I was like, sure. That's when they did their first ever race in Gainesville, which Central Florida is their main race. They always go to a place out here right by my house called Little Everglades Ranch. But they wanted to try property up in Gainesville. So like, I'll come up here, audition, hang out with Matty T. We'll see how you do. And it just, the ball went rolling from there. So
nice.
It's been fun. And then I was with them for a few years. In 2020, Matty decided he was going to take some time off. He just had a baby. That's bigger than I was. Like 4 races the year before. Like 2020 is supposed to be my year, my breakout year. And then bam, COVID. It's like, I was going to do the home opener right here at home, right by my friend, where all my friends could see me at the start line. I was excited. And I was like, oh, shut down. But I hung out. You know, they were able to keep me on staff. Wasn't able to do start line, but I did merchandise for them for a while. But, you know, Garfield kind of saw my love of being on the microphone. Like every now and again, the guy that was on main stage would be doing the award ceremony, and they would need somebody to do the last few waves at the start line. So I would run over there for merchandise, do a couple waves, send back over here. And then Garfield's like, hey, mate, I think it's time you jump onto the Spartan train. I was like, well, I can't right now because I still got a few more races I got to work with them, but we could talk 2021, 2022 and see what happens. And he put me in touch with Riley Day, and then I've been with Spartan ever since. So, I mean, it's been a fun journey, man. I mean, when I got a chance to go out to, I mean, I've never been on the West Coast, never been to California. As far as out west I've been is Arizona. My brother lives out there just south of Phoenix. Been out there, but never put my feet in the ocean out there. I always wanted to. And went out to Washougal, Washington, or Portland. Went out there, had a one-day event. I totally forgot it was a one-day event. And I booked my flight late at night so that I can at least experience what, you know, what it was like being in Portland. And it was beautiful out there on the coast. Like I went to Nasakin Falls, I think, or Nasakin Forest. If I'm saying that right, it's where the roots of the trees were found. Something like, I can't remember the name of it. Nasakin or something like that.
I should know it because that's where I'm from, but
is it? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm originally from the Northwest, but
when I got out there, they said that they found roots of trees from like 1 million years ago. I was like, that's fun. But anyway, again, that's where I met Dave, and he's been a pretty awesome dude. Like I've been following him with his Momoto stuff he's been going on, with all the stuff he's doing on Route 66, and part of how I met Dave is the reason why I love this sport. Is because, you know, I saw this dude. He was at the start line was right next to the cadre doing the. I'm sitting there listening. I'm like, man, this is brutal. And I'm like watching all these people doing this thing where they put their flags above their heads, they're holding out in front of them, and I'm like, damn. And I didn't pay anything attention to who was in the crowd. I just, you know, they went off and did their thing. I did my stuff throughout the day, all the start line stuff, and then I remember I called, like, I think it was the second or third to last wave of the day. And then I saw Dave coming over, and he's in the starting crowd. You know, I come around the corner, I start talking to him for a few minutes, and he starts crying right there on the spot. I was like, whoa, what did I say? We're just talking about sports and talking about, like, man, you're straight up killing right now. Like, you're doing the hurricane heat, and now you're doing a freaking sprint wave. I'm like, holy crap. And he was telling me that his dad just passed that week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you still showed up. Like, even though you're going through all of this grief right now, you're still standing here at this start line. And then he started telling me, like, his dad would come to all the races with him and watch him. And I was like, that is actually pretty awesome, man. Like, stories like that is why I love doing this. Like, you know, you can interview people and they're like, yeah, I'm training for like 20 years. And I'm like, I'm jacked up. I can do like 300 pounds over my head, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's great and all. But that's not only what this sport's been about for me. This sport's been about trying to come out of, like, trying to, like, defeat, you know, from addiction and all that whatnot. Like, and I've shared at my start line a few times. It was hard for me to do, like, the first time. Like, I started breaking down, and this is when Oscar Mike was at the start line, and then More Heart Than Scars followed him right behind him and did the same exact thing. But I told you about my attempted suicide on December 26th of 2010.
Yeah.
Like that was the worst year of my life. My motorcycle accident, dealing with the custody battle with my daughter and my ex. My father was a diabetic amputee. He was in and out of the hospital. My grandmother passed away. Everything around me just started just crumbling down. And then, day after Christmas, I'm just sitting in my daughter's room. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But this sport, after I got a chance to really be part of it, gave me something to continue fighting for. Once I realized how much my daughter loved watching the kids races. Like she's like, Dad, I want to do that. I was like, right now you can't, you're only 3 years old. But now she's doing them with me sometimes. And I was like, I've got to stay in the sport. Like this is something I got to stay with. Because now it's inspiring my daughter to do better. She doesn't want to be like the top dog athlete, but she just wants to go out there and have fun like I did. And she's been meeting people, and my daughter's going through some things right now, and she's 15 now, but like she's finding the sport to be like her saving grace as well inside. So, but going to these races, meeting people like Paul LeChance, Tom Maming, everybody's names all of a sudden like falling on my head, especially when Joey shows up. I mean, when I see the More Heart Than Scars guys going, Tom shows up, or Tim shows up in that Blue Ranger. He's like, I'm like, oh, great, Grizzly Adams is here. But like when they start telling me about the people that they're bringing these races, like and what they're doing, it's pretty awesome.
It is, and that's one of the things. I mean, a lot of people, the listeners know, I'd given up on OCR after 2020. Like I started in 15. I mean, I started doing Spartan in 15. I'd done some, like I said, some other ones before that. But like 2020, I'm like, I'm done. Because 2020 the whole year just sapped everything out of me. I'm like, I'm not enjoying it anymore. There was other things that happened in 2020. I mean, I lost 100 pounds, but there was other things personally that happened with some of the groups that I ran with. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm like, I'm done. I mean, I didn't even want to do this anymore. Don just kind of talked me into it. He's like, we don't have another host now, so just keep doing it. Because I'd originally started the podcast, and then I was like done. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And Don's like, well, I'll help you on the back end, because before I did everything. He's like, I'll help you on the back end if you just record occasionally. And I'm like, okay. And we had a couple other hosts for a bit, and then they kind of faded off, and I kind of took back over. But it gave me that little bit of a break. But it was really last year when I went out with More Heart Than Scars. All of a sudden, I actually got to go with them, because I've always been on the West Coast. They're on the East Coast. I never got a race with them because me and my wife have an agreement. If I travel for a race, she gets a vacation. So we only went to nice warm places like Texas and Hawaii and places that were good vacation places, which is surprising. We never went to Florida. The only time I've done a Florida race, she wasn't with me, but we had this, so I never really got to go with the team. So then I went with the team, and all of a sudden seeing the joy and seeing the way people reacted to the team, like meeting you in Florida, everything like that kind of changed a little bit of my thought again. Because all of a sudden I'm like, now this is why I did this. 2020, I lost all the weight. I tried doing, I did a couple competitive waves, but it just didn't feel right. It's like, okay, cool. I got I did a sprint in less than an hour. Or actually, that's not a lie. I did it in an hour and 30 seconds. I was so mad. But yeah, an hour and 30 seconds. I'm like, but but I missed out on all the fun, all the hanging out with people, all the talking, all the helping people over stuff. And I'm like, this wasn't why I do this. I do this because I want to hang out and do stuff. And that's kind of the thing with like, talking with you about this. It's like, we're in this for the fun of it. We're never going to be the elite athletes standing on the podium next to, Robert Killian or anything like that. Yeah.
I mean, I was on the podium standing next to him when I handed him a second place medal.
So that's the only way we're going to be up there with them.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was the same thing for me. I think what it was, like, you get to a certain point in this industry, and I think we saw that in the sport, just after COVID, when things started opening up, like numbers were still low. Because I think everybody got to that certain point in their life, like, there's nothing new anymore. Yeah. Like, we've done the same thing over and over and over and over. And that was, for me, that was 2018. Like, I've done the same thing. I've done I've done the full trifecta weekend. I've done all the Savage Syndicate weekends. I've done the Rugged Maniacs, Tough Runners. I've done them all. And I'm like, but I'm doing the same obstacles over and over and over again. And it's great being out here with my friends, but I'm like, I'm getting a little bit bored. And then you get to a certain point too, like when you bring all these people in, and then now they're bringing their friends in, and it's like you slowly fade down the back because your friends that you've taught so much about this sport are now taking the reins and teaching their friends, which is great. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
But it's like that's the point where I'm like, I don't have anything left that I really want to achieve. Like I did my last thing in 2018 was I wanted to achieve an ultra. And I did that in Spartanburg. It took me freaking forever, and I did not think I was going to be able to do it, but I did. But I was like, at that point, I was like, I think this is really it. Like, I think at the end of the year, when Spartan comes to Central Florida, I think this is going to be my final race. I think my final hurrah. And a lot of people came out and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got to hang out with you one more time. Like, we want to race with you." I'm like, "Listen, dude, I'm walking this whole entire race. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to come out here, have fun, say do my little goodbye sign off with Mud Run Guide, and I'm gonna quit." And then 2019 came around, early part of the year, and then I was like, I'm talking to people, and they're like, "Hey, you should do something else. They're like, "Oh, you should start an OCR." I'm like, "Yeah, no, that logistics nightmare is not something I want to be part of. That's a financial grave to dig." And I'm like, I'd rather be part of the industry and work the industry, not be that further into it. But yeah, like I said, the same thing. Like I had that little bit of break where I was not running races, but I was still at the races. Like even when Savage came to town, I didn't sign up to run. I went to go spectate and hang out with a few of the people I used to hang out with. And I'm like, this is cool and all, but I gotta go. Like, but I think what happened was like, being with Savage and seeing a lot of the people I saw there, and I like to spend my day when I'm done with the start line. I don't just go out into the festival area, just kind of hang out, drink beers, whatever. I like to go to the finish line. I would do that, see the faces of people that I saw at the start line who were scared to death. I may not see all of them. Like, there's a lot of times I'll miss them entirely. But like, you see the finish line, you're like, what the hell did I just do? And I'm like, well, you just ran 6.5 miles. It took you a little while. I'm like, how do you feel now? And they're like looking over at the future race tent. I'm like, so you were sitting there cussing out your best friend or your wife, your girlfriend, whatever it was. I'm like, and now you want to sign up for more? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Give them their medal, give them their beer. When I go, sometimes I'd even go to the beer tent. I give them the beer. I'm like, hey, this you've earned this. Now go back to the race. But,
well, yeah, and that was me, the first one I did when I did Montana. I finished it because it was Montana in 15, and a lot of people don't realize this. Montana in 15 was what they call the Founders Race, which I don't think they've done one since then. But it was a special medal because it was considered a Founders Race because it was the very first year they did it there, and it was usually Joe, Norm, and like the originals, the OG guys would set this thing up. It was, I think, 22-mile beast with obstacles I have never seen ever again. That was the one and only time I ever saw him was on that race. I mean, it was insane. And I finished and I looked at my wife and said, "This is freaking stupid. I'm done. I'm never doing this shit again."
Yeah.
Like on the way home, I'm like signing up for the next one because I had a free race. I'm like, well, I earned a free race because I volunteered, so I might as well use it, But and now I think I'm like 70, 77 or something like that, Spartan races. But I also did street team for years and got the free races.
Yeah.
And I would end up getting so many in a year because I volunteered so much. I was like, tell people all the time, they're like, I want to do a Spartan race, but it's so expensive. I'm like, here's a free race. What's your next excuse? What else you got? And I think for me, it was the same thing. I did in 21, I did my ultra. And when I did the Dallas Ultra, that's when I was pretty much like, I'm going to do the ultra. And like you said, now I've done everything I've wanted to do. That was the final one.
Was that the one at the ranch?
Yeah.
The dry desert ranch. Oh my.
That was the very last year they did that. That's where they did World's Toughest this year.
Oh yeah, I remember. But man, I remember, dude, that ranch was brutal.
Yes.
I remember there was one time I'm sitting at the start line and it's sunny, it's clear, the sky, and next thing you know, you can't see anything in front of your face 5 inches because the sand just came out of nowhere. But I remember seeing people coming from doing the ultra in Dallas in 22, and they're like, "Oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this again." The heat was just so unbearing. But they did it. I mean, obviously I saw more Hard Scars out there, and I saw Oscar Mike, I saw all out there. But they were trucking along, and I remember the last racer when he crossed, like he was cussing himself. because of what he went through. He's like, oh, I was told this is the easiest because it's flat.
Yeah.
I'm like,
No, it was.
That's one thing a lot of people don't seem to tell you is also, this may be flat, but it's gonna feel like Satan's anus when you're out there on the course. It's gonna be hot.
It's
like,
funny.
It's
I have one of my favorite, my training partner that I have down here, because I moved to Texas. I live in Conroe, Texas, just out of Houston. We met on the Dallas race, on the Dallas Ultra. And she considers that the worst race she's ever done. And she did she did this year, she did the Texas Ironman, the full Ironman, and still says that that ultra was worse.
Really?
Yeah, she's like, that ultra was worse than the full Ironman in Texas.
I can imagine. Yeah. I've never done an Ironman. I've watched people do Ironman, and I'm over here thinking like, I'll never do that, which I probably will never do one. But I'm like, I can compare a little bit to an ultra, but I think it really depends on not just the terrain, but also the environment, the temperature.
Yeah, and that was me
because
yeah, I did the half iron. I did the half iron here in Texas in April.
Did you?
And I did. And
how'd you feel after that?
Oh, I was destroyed. But what got me was it was nice and flat, just like the Dallas Ultra, nice and flat, but there was the side wind because it was down in Galveston and you're on the water. So you get a side wind the whole time coming off the beach. And
so
then
those coastal over.
Yep, on the bike. And then on the run, it was just a nice flat whatever, but it was the heat because it was in the beginning of April. And the weather said it was supposed to be like overcast and possible rain and like 70 degrees.
No.
Well, they were full of crap because it was sunny and beautiful and like 87 degrees. So, I mean, it wrecked me. But I mean, I finished it. I'm still mad at myself because technically the rule is, I mean, to be an officially finish a half Ironman, you're supposed to do it in 8.5 hours. I was at 8 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah, but you still did it. I mean, I think there's got to be that little kind of a buffer of a window, especially.
I think I was the last person they let cross the finish line.
Really?
So, but it was one of those.
Yeah, like when you're doing it, they're always like trying to figure out like what race should I do first as my first ever Spartan. I'm like, well, definitely don't pick Killington. That is a nightmare. I always try and tell them to like something that's more flat, like the Carolina or Central Florida or the Texas area, like one of those. But I'm also telling everybody the same thing. I'm like, one, look at the weather forecast 10 days out. Just watch it. I know it'll be different when you're looking at 10 days, and in 10 days it'll be a little different, but watch it as it changes. Prepare for that because the temperature is going to be what is going to be your deciding factor if you're going to finish or not. Like I said, when I did my first ultra in 2018, I looked at the years prior, what it was like in Spartanburg, South Carolina at that time frame, and I was seeing like upper 50s to like middle 60s. I'm like, I'm used to that. I like that weather down here in Florida because it feels absolutely gorgeous. I can do a race like that. I get to the start line, it's 27 degrees. I'm like, I didn't pack enough cold weather. So I'm like, I'm running back to my car and I'm grabbing like my really nice sweatpants. And I'm like, yep, I think I'm just going to burn these ones now, but it's going to be done. They're going to be toast. And like I said, I did it, but I mean, and what sucks, that was Garfield's race. And I hate him for this because the first obstacle beyond the hay bale was the creek. And in 27 degrees, I'm watching ice, little things of ice just kind of floating down the creek. And I'm like, I hate this. The only thing in my mind is everyone in the line's going slow. Why is not somebody going around? Like, go around. Don't follow the ant line. Go around. And as soon as I'm thinking this, one guy walks out and just gone, completely underwater. And I'm like, I'm just going to not have any thoughts on this race and just continue on like everyone else and follow the rest of the ants. Because if I think anything else, I may wind up being like that guy, and I don't do that. But I hung up with. Do you know Noel? Yeah, he's one of the guys that hangs out with Lionheart Fitness. He's from Jacksonville. I think he's up in Colorado now. But Noel, that was his first ultra with me, or his first ultra period. And on the second lap, we caught up with each other, and him and I stuck it out the whole entire way. And honestly, if it wasn't for Noel, I would not have finished that race. Like, I don't know what it was, but yeah, I think it was a mix of dehydration and deliriousness because he was just like, it was straight up watching like Kings of Combat Spartan hanging from a trail. He'd grab it, look at it, he'd be like, Spartans, this way. And just he would have everybody cracking up. And I know it's like lame, like to think about, like you're like, oh, that's just silly stupid. When you're like 9 hours into a race, you're thinking, this is what's keeping me going. I'm going to keep with it.
Yeah.
But it was brutal. But man, one day I will do one again. I've been asked multiple times to do one. Joey has asked me many a times if I will come out and do an ultra with them. I'm like, here's the thing. All the ultras you're at, I'm standing right here at the start line. So I kind of can't run it with you into the start line at the same time. So I'm going to figure something out and run with the team eventually. I got a chance to run with them. So I came out of retirement from running the races at the end of 2022 with my first year with Spartan because Laura Flynn with Oscar Mike, she had been asking me, Joey had been asking me, like, when are you going to step off with us? When are you going to come out in the race with us? I'm like, well, I kind of got to do this. And I can't leave until I got to reset everything. If I had the opportunity to run faster than I could, I would literally shut this down and run on course and catch up. But I don't have that ability anymore. And I think in 22, I decided, shoot, I'm just going to run a full trifecta weekend with the whole entire team. And I went out first lap on the Beast. I ran out there with Oscar Mike. And then on Sunday, I ran the Super with Oscar Mike and More Heart Scars. So we had to get back because we had the big the VA wave for the sprint. And I think at the time we had like 240 between Oscar Mike, More Heart Scars, Operation Enduring Water, and also the VA athletes. So I finally got to see everything that both of these teams do out on course firsthand.
Yeah.
And I was like, from that point forward, I was like, this is now my mission. When these guys show up, I don't care what time your wave schedule was. I'm going to do this whole entire ramble on talking about what they are, what they do, what they represent. Sorry, there's a large, like, once I saw everything that they do, I'm like, I'm going to make sure these teams are introduced the way they should be. Like I watched, like my first year with Spartan in 22 was in Atlanta, and I was nervous as all hell. Now I've learned, I knew who More Heart Than Scars was from seeing them at other races. I knew who Oscar Mike was from seeing other races, but I never actually physically saw what Rob did for them at the start line. And I was like, so I'm sitting there recording. I'm like, oh, he's like, I want you to watch how I introduce these guys. These are two of the most iconic teams here at Spartan Race. I want you to be able to have the same send off for them, kind of like I do, but in your own way. I was like, all right, cool. So I watched it, and I watched Rob get emotional and start crying. And he's talking about when he was knighted. He was talking about the different things, the people he's met on the team. And when I saw his passion for what More Heart Than Scars does, and then immediately after, the same thing with Oscar Mike, and I'm like, this right here is the whole reason I do OCR.
Yeah.
And it's got 2 teams attached to it. So following the event in Central Florida, when I told that I didn't know if I was coming back in 22. Sorry, that was 21, 22. No, 21. I got my years all mixed up. But in the next year afterwards, when Rob announced that he was being let go from Spartan, him and I had a long conversation, and he's like, listen, I don't know if you're coming back. I know I'm not coming back, but I need you to do me a favor. I need you to represent More Heart Than Scars and Oscar Mike the best you can, the way I've watched you do it all year long. And I was like, I'll do my best. Like, I'm no Rob Leday. Like, I will always say to everybody, I appreciate when everybody comes to me like, oh, you're the best MC. I'm like, as much as I love and appreciate that, the best MC was Rob Leday to me. And so I try to like kind of mirror his image, what he does when he introduces the team, talks about what they do, talks about the athlete that they have there with them, whether it be either Erica or Jenna. And I remember seeing Jenna at her first race in Newberry in 2022. And that girl had the biggest smile I'd ever seen in her entire life. And then she was being pulled by Joey. She was nervous, had no idea what the OCR was all about. This was her first ever race. And I remember seeing that, like, this is, but also bring the smile of joy and accomplishment. So that's why I decided I do what I do for Martin Scars. Like I've got the flag sitting actually right over here in my bag because when I go out to the races, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I've actually got the More Heart and Scars and I've got the Oscar Mike flag always hanging at my start line tent. That's how I told Joey. I was like, you'll know I'm there, but the flag is already there.
Yep. Yeah, I remember
There's
seeing
three
those.
flags that go up first: American flag, Stars, and Oscar Mike. Yep. Those are the first three that go up.
Yeah, so, and I've seen it a couple times. I love that.
No, what? Yeah, I mean,
I think the first time
Joey,
I saw you was that Washougal race where you met Dave. Yeah. That's where I think I saw you the first time was Washougal where you met Dave.
Remember.
Because I wasn't even supposed to be at that race because I was doing an Ironman the next morning. And Dawn,
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, Dawn was like, I don't have any help. He's got like 2 or 3. I'm like, fine, I will come and do the race, but just know I got to be careful because I have an Ironman the next morning. Because I remember it because I remember seeing Dave because I did the race with Dawn and I saw Dave as we were coming out and he was doing the 4 hour and I remember asking the Cryptea because I knew the Cryptea Adam. I'm like, can I walk over and give him a hug because I know what happened. So and I walked over and gave him a hug in the middle of the hurricane heat because I'm like I know because I know Dave and I knew what had happened. So I'm like, he needs a hug and I know he does. So I'm gonna go give him one. I don't care if it messes up your hurricane heat, but yeah. So I was doing the half Ironman in Washington the next morning. So I did the whole thing with him and then had to drive. I had my bike in the car because I had to drop the bike off at the race site on my way home from the race.
That a weekend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually did a Ironman. I did there's over in New Smyrna, over on the east coast of Florida. They called the Turtle Beach Triathlon. It was a small, like 200, I think it was like a 200-foot swim in the ocean, and then it was the 5K, or no, I'm sorry, it was a 5K bike run, and then it was a 5K run. So I was like, I'm gonna give this a shot. Well, anyway, I realized when day of the race, and I'm like, my bike was not operational. Like I didn't even bother checking the bike, checking the gears or anything. I'm like, this sucks. Like my chain completely just snapped, and I'm like, ah. So I'm like, I'm panicking. I called my roommate. I said, hey, can I borrow your bike this weekend? And she's like, you want to borrow my bike? And it's one of them big old beach cruisers with the basket on the front, and it's got like the fancy fender on it. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not going to look like anybody fancy, but I'm sitting just like, I'm singing literally the theme song from Wizard of Oz with the witch on the bike. And I'm like, anyway, but man, I tell you what really kind of got me was the swim.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it wasn't a very large swim, my legs were done when I got back on the beach. Like I'm like walking to the bike and I'm stumbling. I'm like, I can only imagine what doing an Ironman could do to a person's body.
Oh,
and you doing the race and then doing an Ironman.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah,
it is brutal what it does. And for me, it's like one of the first triathlon I ever did was just a short little sprint. I think it's a 500-meter swim, and then you do, I think it was like a 7-mile bike ride, and then you ran a 5K. But I did that swim, and I learned really quickly that I was really good at like not drowning, but I sucked at swimming. And people like did the same thing. I'm like, no, they're completely different.
That's a pros and cons. I mean, not being able to swim, but still being able to float. I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I had to learn really quick how to swim for like distance, and I had a friend teach me. So, and I'm still not that good. Like in the Ironman, you have an hour and 10 minutes to finish the swim. I finished an hour and 6, but I finished.
Wow. That's what matters. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I always talk about. Like, I don't care what the time is, just finish. Like like in Fayetteville, back in May, my buddy Dan, we met again through social media, through Startline. He hears my talk and he's like, "Oh man, you're really awesome. I appreciate the words you say." And he had heard my story about the attempted suicide one time, and we started talking and whatnot. But anyway, in Fayetteville, he brought his brother and then he brought his father, and they were going to volunteer while he was doing his first ever ultra. I was like, I'm looking at his brother and his dad. I'm like, well, if he's doing the ultra, why don't you guys go run to the Beast? Oh no, we're volunteering. I said, all right, well, then why don't you guys take your codes and go run the super tomorrow? or go run the sprint after he's done. They're like, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, well, why not? And they start, this is where I really like to get in people's heads. I'm like, I want to hear the why nots, because I have heard thousands of reasons of why nots. And I've literally got a resume of that literally have those same types of issues as to why they do it. Now I gave Dan's dad a break because he just had knee surgery, and I'm like, I will let that one go. But I looked at his brother and I was like, you said you want to do one. Why don't you come back tomorrow and run the sprint? At least let's get a taste of it. I'm like, you don't have to run the 5K, you don't, or the 10K, you don't have to run the beast. Come back tomorrow. You have a code. It will be free. Come and run the sprint with your brother, and just get a taste for how it's going to feel. So I'm telling you right now, running here where it's flat, don't go to freaking New Jersey, because that will not be your good one. Because that is a nightmare. I've been to Jersey, I did not like it. And I grew up in Philadelphia, so. But I'm like, do it here, do it where it's flat, get an experience with the obstacles and what it's going to kind of take to get through the obstacle. End of the day, I got the big, the two middle fingers coming across the finish line, and it's like, where do I sign up for the next one? I was like, oh, well, what happened? He's like, well, we were talking on course. I skipped a couple obstacles. I was like, hey, I never tell anybody to do 100%. I always tell people just to keep trying. You don't have to do 100%. There's obstacles I can't do. I can't do rope climbing for shoulder reasons. Anyway, but I told him, I was like, what obstacles did you have a hard time with, or what obstacles did you not want to do? And he told me. I was like, well, this is where now you have a goal to set. You take one of those obstacles, whether it be the monkey bars, whether it be traverse wall, whatever it is, go find the gym or go find a wall and practice. So you just go jump over the wall a couple times, or go climb up a rope a couple times, or find a gym that's got monkey bars and do that a couple times. Just get yourself into a realm of training so you can actually practice to get that obstacle next time. Then when you get that obstacle, do another race and then figure out what other obstacles you got to do and then train for that obstacle. And I've seen people do that. I've seen people change from just doing small little things. But, at the end of the day, I think trying to get people out of that realm of I can't is the hardest one of all, because no matter what, some people have beat in their head that they don't want to do it, they can't do it. But like like Paul LaChance, I always point him out. I'm like, dude, he's 82 years old, and I was 83. I'm like, he's 83 years old. He's just finished his 200th race in, I think it was Vegas. And I'm like, age isn't a thing. I'm like, I got Monty Montgomery, a World War II Army vet, who ran the sprint in West Palm Beach in May in 23. In 23. And I'm like, I've got old guys on this team. I've got old guys to come out here. So age isn't an excuse. I'm like, and then they're like, oh, well, I lost a leg. Cool. Well, I was at a Tough Mudder, and this was probably one of the really awesome things I got a chance to witness. The dude was a big guy. He was an ex-Marine, lost his leg in war, and I think it was in Afghanistan. He was going through electroshock therapy, and as he was going through, the leg came off, and he was crawling through the rest of the way to get out. Because this dude, I'm not gonna say he was large. He was just big in the shoulders. Like he was, he can bench press a couple of trees. And he's like, they're in there with a plastic, big old plastic pole. Like, oh, we're gonna get the leg out. He's like, don't touch it. And I'm like, and he's just hopping along back to the other side. And I'm like, looking at him, dude. I'm like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna go get my leg. I'm like, you just lost your leg in there, and you're gonna go back in and get it? He's like, why the F not? I was like, can I go with you? And I did. I crawled through with him, and we're just sitting there being zapped to hell up. And I remember we got to the leg. He got there first. I was coming from the other side. The hay bales were in the way. And I remember I got over there, and I turned around and I saw him grab the leg. He leans over on the side. He's sliding it on. That's the last thing I remember, because when I turned my head, one of the wires zapped me on my head. This is back when I had shaved hair. I went smack in the mud, and then I just get this huge hand of God smacked me in the face, which was him. He's like, "Hey, wake up! We got to finish." I'm like, "Okay," but I'm like, my face is all mud. I can't see. I'm like doing this, trying to get out my face. I'm like, "I love you. I don't even know you, but I love you." I was very delirious at the moment. It was fun. But
and that's what's fun about those things. You go through those. You see those amazing things. It's like last year we did World's Toughest with Marla.
Yeah.
Which was insane.
Yep.
30 miles.
Yep.
That we got with her, and then we did the North Carolina Ultra this year with her.
I remember. I was following everyone on More Heart the Scars that was on the Marla's Revenge team. I kept running back to Tommy. I'm like, where are they at? Where's Marla Swing? I'm like, fault this night. Like, this is her bib number. I need to find out where she's at. Like, last known location. And then, like, I ran backwards. Like, I went as far as I could backwards to catch up with the team right before you guys got to, I think it was spear throw. And I just kind of walked the rest of the way, just that little bit with you guys. Yeah. And I remember just seeing the look on her face and the tears on her eyes when she finally crossed that finish line. And I remember everyone getting together. And I was like, that right there is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because actually that was one because me and Henry fell back.
Mm-hmm.
Because Henry started having some major issues. I wasn't doing very well either, so it was just my excuse to stay with Henry. Huh?
Was he having like some kind of hip issue or something?
Yeah, he was having some kind of hip issue. So I didn't want to. I knew the team. It's one of those things in my brain. I'm thinking, place the mission first, like we've all been told in the hurricane heats. I knew they had it. They had the people they needed. They could do it. I knew I could step back and stay with Henry, which, like I said, I wasn't doing great either, so it worked out well for me anyway. So I stayed back, made sure, Henry was doing good, because no one left behind. So we got everyone through, and that's what made me. I was worried though when I was seeing the thunder and lightning. I'm like, if they pull me at like mile 26, I'm gonna lose my freaking mind.
That absolutely sucked because I remember when that storm came in. Like I remember we were like right at that point we were getting ready to evacuate the festival area. Like it was getting that close. I know we had shut down the obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
I saw people getting very disappointed because they had to walk around. Nobody wants to skip an obstacle. That's like the worst thing in doing a race, especially when you're doing ultra. You want to do 100% completion if you're able to, if you want to. But I remember like running over the timing, and I'm like, where we have everybody locked down in certain zones because I know when we get to a certain they call them code Irenes. Code one is okay, we're watching the weather. Code two is okay, obstacles are now shut down, but people are still allowed to go out on the course. They can walk through. Zone or code Irene code 3 or level 3 is full evacuation of the entire festival area, all staff off festival area, and then we hold all the athletes in certain zones. We have like a map made out for that you guys can't see it. We always see it. Like we'll hold all athletes on these safe spots.
Yeah.
And I remember we were getting closer and closer and closer to that code Irene code 3. And I'm thinking all my friends that are out there, I'm thinking you guys, I'm thinking my friend Dan, all these people who have never done an ultra. This is going to be a heartbreaking moment for them because now, how long are they going to be pushed down into the mud and have to stay down and hunker down for the storm? And then next thing I know, it's clearing out and it's pushing away. I'm like thinking, thank God. So, but it was pretty awesome to see the emotion on your guys' faces, my friend Jake's face, Dan's face, a bunch of like when they came across that finish line wearing those purple pennies. And they realized that they finished something they've never thought in their entire lives they could do. I immediately thought about the moment I did that. And I'm like, now they're really realizing that they can do more than they ever could. And, you can go out and do 100 push-ups, and you can go out and do, rope climbs left and right, but can you do a whole 30 miles and then do all this all together? And like I said, like I was at the finish line just watching people cross, and I'm like, I was giving hugs left and right. Like I know you need this right now. I know you need this right now. Like if somebody had a family member, I was like, yeah, you can give them a hug. But I'm like, if I knew somebody that was coming across that finish line, didn't have anybody with them, or their family member didn't know where they were, I'm like, dude, give me a hug. Come here. So.
Oh yeah, you gave me a hug and my medal.
So. Yeah.
See, I didn't even have to go because most people have to go get their medal. You handed me mine directly right there at the finish line.
I gave all you guys yours. Marla was the first one that got hers.
Oh yeah.
I went back. I had to go back and I forgot the T-shirt. I was going to grab the finisher T-shirt so you guys get like awesome pictures at the finish line because I knew how important that meant to Joey, Marla, and all them. So I'm like, I ran back real quick, got the finisher T-shirt, had to run all the way back over the finish line before you guys all started scattering and do your showers and whatnot. But I'm like, I know how much this is going to mean to her to have all these photos and these memories, especially for you and the whole entire team. So I'm like, that's why I grabbed all these medals. But the guys, the timing, they're like, I grabbed the box of medals. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, more Heart That Scars is coming. I don't care if they have to come over here, but I'm taking these over there. I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, good. My buddy Jeremy, who's the IT guy, who just had a Google, I guess he was on a Google commercial because he has that flip phone for Google. Mm-hmm. He was the guy sitting at the timing station at the time. He's like, yeah, take these and go do your thing. Yeah. I was like, I just want to give somebody that honor of putting that medal around their neck and not just be like, on a finger, here you go. That's dangling from somebody's finger.
And that's what's amazing to me is the whole, like, how much Spartan has stepped up for More Heart Than Scars and everything else. I mean, we've had so many times, like we did the Houston race. where there was a couple of us that were like, we want to do the Beast, but they were doing with Amzi's Angels uh, on the sprint after the Beast, and they wanted to start by like 1 o'clock, and we're like, okay, well, we got to go.
Yeah.
So we did the Beast as quick as we could. We came back in at like 12:30, with just enough time. And when we come back in, we're like, okay, we got to go get in line for, our packets and all that. And they're like, nope. Spartan staffer came over, brought the computer and all the stuff, and did our stuff right there in our tent. Like, here you go. You're good to go. And it's just like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, I can't speak for the company. Even though I work for Spartan, I'm only a contractor.
Yeah.
So I can't 100% speak for the company, but I know Dan McDonald is trying to make it easier for you guys when it comes to big teams like you guys, More Heart and Scars, Oscar Mike, to get through registration, because there's so many of you in one area. They're trying to get something to where you guys don't go all the way back out, get all through registration, go through those lines again, come back in, and hopefully make the first and the last wave cutoff. So I know he's been trying to push for that, and then he's communicating with registration. Say, hey, when you see these shirts or anything that's got the flags, would you guys mind setting aside something to help push that through? And they have been. I know Courtney. I know she's been doing it. I know Jason Barnes' daughter has been trying to help out with that. So they're trying to help get you guys so you don't have to wear all those lines.
Which is amazing.
Huh?
Which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, I know that's one of the biggest complaints I get. And I'm like, listen, I can't do anything. Like I said, I'm not a staff member. I don't have a Spartan email. I don't work in the office. Like, I can tell the people that I know, and that's about as far as it's going to go. The only thing I can tell you is, like, I know sitting in these lines suck, but you got to email them, let them know that there's got to be a different way we can try to do things. But the biggest issue that they've had going in the past with, oh, well, we want to do our super and our sprint, and we pick up both our packets. Yeah, it's cool. It's great. But some people bring their backpacks with them and they put it all in there, and all of a sudden both timing chips cross. And so it happened. It actually happened in Charlotte when we did the super and the sprint on Sunday. And I got told that, super sprint. No, it was on Saturday. I got told that somebody had crossed early that had a sprint chip. And then immediately after, there was like 5 or 6 people that had crossed the start line, but we were still doing the super waves. And they're like, this right here is why we don't give people both their chips at the same time, because this is what happens. Now we have to go and cancel the chip. And when they get to the finish line, it's all going to be null and void, because now it's canceled out when it crossed that last mat. So they're trying to figure out something that's going to benefit the trifecta weekend chasers. Because, and again, I'm not saying this as from the staff perspective here. Again, I don't know 100%, but I know Dan McDonald is trying to push for some kind of change to make it easier for people to get done their first lap on a Sunday, get their timing chip for the second lap of the sprint, and then get on out of there.
Yeah, because I know when I did Hawaii one year, they had a problem with that, where all of us, we all got our chips early, but then there was a few of us, like I left mine in my pack, like with my wife, and then grabbed it on the next loop, but other people had them with them, and then all of a sudden it was like they were having major timing issues because everybody had their everything with them too early. But
that's what it comes down to, because then what happened, and a lot of people don't realize this, you'd be surprised how many times I get cussed out because I'm wearing a Spartan staff shirt when I'm on site, and I'm like, I understand. And they're like, oh, you don't understand, because we want to get our race done. We don't want to go wait in that damn line again. I'm like, I get it. I am an athlete. I've done these races before. I've done this. I've been through this rodeo, and I know it sucks. But I try to explain to them the situation. I'm like, if I give you your second chip and you accidentally start that, now that's going to disqualify you from getting your whole entire trifecta weekend medal, because they're going to go in the system and they'll be like, hey, you didn't run your sprint, so you're not getting that really awesome medal that we got this year with the little spinner medal. You don't get it because you started early and something happened, so now you're disqualified. So now they're trying to figure out the logistics of that. I think it's an ongoing, running way of trying to figure how to make it work better. And the only thing I can think of is, if you're running a full trifecta, you keep your chipping for the rest of the weekend. If we can try,
that's what I was thinking. If there's some way they could do it, like you get a chip and that's your trifecta chip.
But I think this is also now where timing gets involved, because timing's technology doesn't have it to where, okay, the chip's in, now it restarts. So I think now it's going to come down to the technology of those little tiny wristlets that you guys have. So again,
Oh, yeah.
I know they'll probably maybe figure out a way somehow, but I don't know how long it's going to be before they do it. So,
I mean, if we make it work and do what we need to do. So, because Houston was the first time I did all four, because I did the Beast and then I did the sprint right after the Beast with Ainsley's Angels, and then came back the next day and did the Super and the sprint.
yeah, I give it to you. Yeah, a lot of people doing that nowadays. Now that we added that extra lap on Sunday or on Saturday with the sprint, which again is great for me because on Sunday my day's a little bit shorter because people get done fast, which is all great. But my days are really long. But I know it's hard because everyone's now doing. They buy the trifecta pass and they sign up for all through the race and they're like, oh, I can do a sprint today and then go back and do it again. And I'm like, you guys are just tacking on the freaking miles. I'm like, holy hell. It's awesome to see. I'm not gonna tell anybody not to do it. I'm like, hey, if you have the ability to do it, go and do it. I had somebody did it. No, matter of fact, it was Brian Beal. And he did the whole entire trifecta weekend and he did the trail. And
Yeah,
then
see, I wanted.
So
I just wanted to do it once where I did the extra race, because I can remember a couple years ago I tried 3 different years in a row to get Hawaii all in one weekend, and it always came down to, by the time it was time for the sprint, I was just wrecked. I couldn't. I'm like, I just can't do it. And the final year that I did it, and I mean, I was 310 pounds too, so I mean, I was a little bigger then. The final year where I finally did it, I was done. Like after this super, I'm like, I'm done. And I was with my friend Nick, and he's like, okay, well, let's talk about it, blah, blah, blah. And you just come with me, walk with me, we'll talk, and we'll see, see how you're feeling. The next thing I know, I'm standing in the start line with a pack, and I'm like, hell, what the? I said I was done. He's like, yeah, I know, I heard you. Let's go. And yeah, it's like, I heard you, but I don't care. We're doing this anyway. So I finally got like the whole thing. But it was, and now I've done it a couple times, but I'm also a little smaller than I was, but
hey, that's all because of the races. That Hawaii is still on my bucket list of races to either work or race, and I'm just trying to figure out what to do that.
It's gorgeous. But like I said, that's another one where this year they switched. They've got it because it's what, next weekend, I think. It's coming up in August. They've changed venues, but
Yeah, I
because
heard something about, because I know on my email we have with the audio team, all the races are all listed, all the staff members for audio are all listed, and the only one that has a TBT or TBD is Hawaii.
Mhm.
I was like, location. I'm like, it's Hawaii. They're like, but we also have the specific location, the venue or the ranch or the property, whatever it is. I'm like, Hawaii doesn't have a location. I'm like, kind of important. That's in a few weeks. So that's eventually that's on my bucket list, and I'm hoping maybe next year. Since we've already, so what we have is a rotation for the audio team. If you didn't go this year, you hope to go next year. We still got 4 more people on the team that haven't gone yet, so I'm hoping maybe next year I can go. That'd be great.
Well, if you go, let me know. I'll tell you all the good places to go, because we went 5 years in a row, because my wife loves Hawaii, so, and that's how she convinced me to go to Hawaii.
Environment.
Yeah, she convinced me to go to Hawaii. She's like, let's go to Hawaii for anniversary. And I'm like, yeah, no. And she's like, there's a Spartan race that weekend. I'm like, all right, let's go.
The pros and cons.
Yeah. Like, okay. She's like, we can have our 10-year wedding anniversary and you can go on a, Spartan race. And I'm like, I like this. This works for me.
I just realized something, that the More Heart Than Scars logo behind you is a green screen.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you picked up your cup, the logo was now like going into your shirt.
Oh, yeah. Because the cups. It is. Because I'll be honest, what it is behind me, there's a 9-foot tall standee from the movie Scream.
Oh, nice.
And it's the knife with like an eye in it. So there's a lot of people. Yeah.
Nice. I didn't know. Like, the whole entire time we've been talking, I just thought maybe you had like a really awesome backdrop in there.
No, it's a green screen.
I'm like, that looks a little weird.
Yeah, it's a green screen actually. Adam from Beast OCR gave me that, the green screen. So
I thought about getting one. Like I was like during COVID, I suckered into that TikTok error, and I started making all these fun TikToks with using my motorcycle and just making a bunch of stupid videos. And then again, the algorithm on Facebook, it showed me like this really cheap stands that telescopic stands that go over the bar and green screen. I saw these bunch of videos. I'm like, oh, let me try that. And I was like, nah, I don't want to spend the money. I'm not gonna dig that deep into TikTok.
No.
You know, I don't think I've made a video on TikTok since over a year from now.
Yeah, see, like I said, this was Adam with BeastNet because it'll slide. It does slide completely down, and then I can pull it back up. So, yeah, Adam gave it to me because he wasn't using it. So I got a lot of good things from Adam, but from BeastNet here, I have a helmet that Mark. I think who was it that made it? Mark, I think was Spartan. That's a Spartan helmet that's made out of like a oxygen cylinder. That's a
Oh,
belt.
no.
That's in my garage. Oh, it's solid, but it rings good. So it's in my gym.
Is it? I know Gerardo, one of our guys who works for Kids Support, he came out to the Austin race, and he brought this awesome freaking helmet. I think he said some custom shop made it, and it's on his Instagram page. I'm not going to do it justice describing it, but it just had like all the fine points, like the point at the bottom of the mask just came to like this razor sharp edge, the mohawk up on the top, like it absolutely. And then he got a picture of him wearing the helmet, wearing a staff shirt behind the fire, just doing this whole. I mean, he's a strong, muscular dude. He's just standing there. I'm like, yeah, if Leonidas was a Spartan employee, it would be you. Because it looked out. And I looked at him, I was like, how much that helmet? He's like, nah, about 500. I'm like, okay, never mind. I'll just buy one on Amazon.
Never mind.
Eventually, I'll have a Spartan helmet in my garage. I mean, I've got all the flags already.
Yeah, I've got a few flags, but I need to get some more.
Thing is, the flags you see that are face, that's just a few of them. I've got nails between all of them with about 5 or 6 flags in between them.
Oh, nice.
I've got my old team flag back there. Team Black Sheep was the one you see all the way in the very right there. That was my first ever OCR team I ran with. And I have Iron Ant Fitness, Mud Run Fun. And then, like I said, I've got, my Oscar Mike flag, which is one of the ones that comes with me on race weekend, along with, that's not it. And then I told Joey, I was like, hey, how do I get one of these flags that has this really new print that you guys have on there? So I got that one, as you've seen. Nice. I'm like, I want to have that at the start line. And he's like, oh, well, and I was like, instantaneously, I grabbed the QR code. I was like, here's $50. Give me the flag.
Yeah, see, I have the More Heart Than Scars, but I don't have the one with all the writing. And hangs in my garage with Battle Miles, which is another thing that I do quite a bit, the virtual races and a couple other ones that I have. And then Noon, because I'm a Noon ambassador because I love Noon. So but
I do need to get back into the fitness area realm. It's like I've just been so busy with taking care of my father, who has a lot of health issues going on right now, and then coming home from Austin back in May. My girlfriend and I were actually in an elevator accident. The elevator dropped with us in it. And we were going from baggage claim up to the top floor where she parked at the in parking garage, and then it all happened within seconds. The elevator dropped, it stopped, the lights flickered on and off, and then I'm thinking that the elevator stopped right where it was. Like I'm like, what floor are we on? Like we're not moving. Like I grabbed my bag that I checked in with the airline, and I'm going to pull out my knife. I'm like trying to pry the door open. I'm like, we're not. And next thing you know, we're on the top floor. I'm like, how the hell did we get here? But then, not paying attention to her right away, she goes out of the elevator and she collapses. And long story short, she blacked out multiple times, wound up being taken away with the EMTs. And then the first hospital, St. Jude's, had told her that she had a mild concussion and some anxiety issues. Because every time she kept falling asleep, she kept like freaking out, waking up. And then the next day she wakes up and her temperature is going between 93 and 101. It just kept doing that for like, and we're like, that's weird. So she called her doctor, says, go to the ER right now. And then she wound up being diagnosed with one of the most severe concussions you can have, just shy of brain damage.
Yeah. Well, so that's not good at all.
Doing neurology therapy 3 days a week. She's doing PT for her spine.
Oh.
But she sustained a massive concussion. She's got a lot of medical issues going on right now, so we're trying to get that all straightened away. So right now she can't drive. That's been one of the things right now. She can't drive at all. We tried to go to the supermarket last week, and the way the migraines come and go so severely and so fast, like she can't be behind the wheel. So that's been my downfall. Like I've got all this gym equipment right here behind me. Like I've got my pull-up bar, I've got my bags, I've got my sandbags up over here on the floor, and then Walmart boxes that are being crushed. And I just haven't had time to do anything. Like most of it's got my lawn dust on it from mowing my lawn.
Yeah,
So
and that's the hard part is, I mean, it's, that's one thing for me. It's, I lost all the weight in 2020 and then I've had some issues like keep with it coming back, not back to where I was. I'm not back to like 310 or anything, but I'm about 250. I need to get back down to about 210, but I was, like I said, 310 for a bit. Um, but it's life gets in the way. I'm working
exactly.
six, I'm working 60 hours a week right now. I'm working 6 10s every week. I've had a couple trips where I flew back to Seattle for a couple races, but once I finished the Ironman, my body was just like, break time. You need to like slow down for a minute because you've been pushing for this race, and I gained some weight. At my age anyway, you gain weight quick, and it's hard to make it go away.
Oh, I know. I'm 41. Trust me, I've been there. Like when I was living and working in Orlando, I had a Planet Fitness. Literally, as soon as I used to work for Coca-Cola, and as soon as I pull out of the manufacturing plant, the plaza right next door is the gym. So I literally had no excuse. I'd literally pull out, pull right in, and I'd be in there for 2 or 3 hours a day on every day that I worked.
Mm-hmm.
I was working shit. I was at the time I was working 6 to 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts. I was working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I'd be there in the morning, work out for a few hours, go home and sleep for a little bit, and come back and do it all over again. Like I was down at one point, I had got myself down to like 196, 197. But that was my goal to get back under 200 and prepare myself for the ultra that I was getting ready to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I decided to, why am I paying for rent for a house when I own this one that I'm in right now? I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like rent, obviously, you see how cost of living, like rent in Orlando for the house that I have went from $2,700 a month to 4,000. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out of here. It was a
Yeah.
5-bedroom house. So, but I also had some roommates that worked for Disney. So the perks of them paying rent, I also got free tickets to go to Disney.
Well, that's
So,
good.
it worked out. But then my daughter no longer likes Disney anymore. Thank God. But I was like, I'm leaving. I'm going to come over here. And like I said, I've got my, but I got with my girlfriend, and like you said, life happens. Like I started working again. I technically work Monday through Thursday, but I work 10 to 12-hour shifts.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, what's going on with her medical issues and also my father's medical issues, I'm literally waking up early in the morning after I only get home from work around 2 a.m. I'm up every day around 7:30, and I got to either get him to dialysis or get him to or her to for medical therapy for her head. And I'm just like, there's days I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get up. I don't want to do nothing. I'm always like, tomorrow I'm getting up. I'm working on this gym. I'm going to work on the sandbag. I'm going to work on this punching bag that's got a skeleton hanging behind it. And then I get in here. I'm like, I have no motivation whatsoever to do this right
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at. I've got to get the motivation because I'm going to do the Ironman again in April. So
now.
did
Yeah.
everything just go dark?
Man, I'm thinking maybe one day I will because I'm not sure if you've done a Savage race, right?
No, because they didn't have them on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's true.
And now
I
that
know
I'm in Texas, I haven't been able to do one yet.
Yeah, their 5-year plan is to get out to the West Coast. As far as they go right now is Houston, I think, in Dallas. But the guy that works the main stage, Jeff Meeks, he's big into CrossFit. And I mean, he's been trained, like he won't come and hang out with us when we travel for the weekends. He literally goes to a gym while we're all going to restaurants. And he's like, I want you to come out and just watch the Ironman with me. Come out here and do it. And I want you to try and do this with me. I'm like, I'm nowhere near the level you're at, but I will one day give it a shot. And then COVID came up, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
I would say
do.
this. If you're going to do one, Galveston is a good one to do because it is flat. In the 56-mile bike ride, I think there was 110 feet of elevation. That's only because we went over a bridge.
Really? So, yeah, I don't do as much as I do love the mountains. I love looking at them. I love standing on them. I hate walking up.
Yeah.
I learned quickly when I was out there in Washougal. We went to that waterfall. That's got the bridge right in front of it. I can't think of the name of it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name either.
Oh, I can't remember. It's beautiful. Anyway, we were doing the switchbacks to get to the top. Everybody wanted to go to the top of the waterfall and go see it. I'm thinking like halfway up, I get to there's 11 switchbacks trails, and then I get to like level 4, and I'm like, why does it feel like there's an elephant standing on my chest? They're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, is this normal? Like, they're like, where do you live? I'm like, Florida. He's like, it's the elevation.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not used to being this high in the sky. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. But I mean,
That's what got me.
Huh?
That's what got me. I went back in June and I did a race that I've done every year with It's called the Sisu 24-hour in Washington. You run for 24 hours up and down the mountains in Washington State. And my friend's like, hey, let's go do this loop. And it's a loop I've never done because it's 10 miles out and 10 miles back with 4,000 feet of elevation gain.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, okay, fine. I've never done it, but let's go for it. And then I'm doing it and I'm like, I forgot we don't have hills in Texas. I haven't had to do a hill since I moved.
It's funny how that does to you. I always hear the horror stories. Like I'm going back to Vermont this year for to work the start line. And I've been requesting this because I have a friend of mine who lives here in Florida. And I think this is his 6th year going to Vermont, and he has yet to complete it. And I told him last year, like, listen, I got a surprise for you. He's like, what's that? I'm like, I'm going to be in Washington. I'm going to be in Vermont. I want to be at the finish line. And I want to put that medal around your neck because I know you've been like dying to make this one race. He's done the ultras, like he's done Jersey, he's done the one in or the one in North Carolina. He's done a bunch of them, but Killington is his only one he has DNF, and he's just going back every year after year, except for 2020. But I requested to go back this year, even though there's not anything to do around that area. I just literally, he's the only reason why I'm going. Because I mean, I want to try different venues, but like if I repeat venue, it's killing me. So, but I've heard horror stories about that place.
Someday I want to do it, but it's one of those ones that it just kind of like, now that we live in Texas and it's so much easier to go to the East Coast, like I did North Carolina. It was a quick, flew up there Friday, did the race. I was home Sunday night.
Yep.
I didn't even miss a day of work. I just left a little bit early on Friday. When I did Florida, I did the same thing. I flew down Friday, raced on Saturday on my actual birthday because you sung happy birthday to me.
I remember that.
And then flew back Sunday morning. I didn't even do the races Sunday. So, because my wife was mad at me because I flew to Florida for my birthday without her.
You would be in trouble.
Yeah.
I couldn't do, my 40th birthday was the same weekend as Raymond James Stadium. And Spartan has been at Raymond James Stadium 4 times. I have not been to one of them. Because the first year I was moving to Orlando. The second year I was sick as a dog. The third year, where was I? Oh, it was my 40th birthday. I couldn't go. And then this year, they had the same weekend as Austin, Texas. So I'm like, eventually I'm going to do Raymond James. My son ran it. He was in Raymond James Stadium. He ran the whole entire thing. He had a great time.
I haven't done a stadium yet. I need to do one eventually.
I do want to do one. Like Tampa is the only one that I can get close to. I'm like, I don't want to fly to a different state just to run a stadium because it's a one day thing. I want to make it, if I want to do it, I want to make it a weekend trip. But I'm like, it's got to be in a place I want to go. Like I would love, I know Dave's going, I would love to go to Fenway. And I was offered to go to Fenway this year. However, before I was offered Fenway, I got tickets to go see Brad Williams, the little midget comedian.
Oh, yeah. Like, I saw him in Seattle a couple months ago.
Cancel the trip to go see the comedian. I'm going to be hung by my own flagpole.
Yeah, because I will tell you, if you've never seen him live, he is amazing.
Oh no, I've heard, I've had 2 friends that saw him. One actually saw him out in Texas, and one saw him, I think it was in New York or New Jersey, one of the 2. And they said he has the best show ever. I'm like, I don't know, pretty awesome. I mean, I actually saw Matt Rife in live in Jacksonville, and I'm like, that was a pretty insane show. But I love comedy shows, like especially when ones I've seen on Netflix, and I think they're really awesome. I want to. That's her nice thing. Like we go to comedy shows. So the thing right now, with her having the issues with her head, I'm not sure if we'll be able to even do it. So because like bright lights, everything sensitivity right now is absolutely horrible. Lights, sun, sound, barking. We have a dog barking. Everything sends her head in a tizzy. So
yeah, I've had migraines most of my life, but never that bad. So when I have one, it feels like it's that bad, but not as often.
Yeah. But what really sucks is I think it's the weekend that I am in San Antonio, or if I'm in Dallas. I know I'm in Texas. I can't remember which weekend. My son wanted to go see Jelly Roll. So I bought him tickets to go see Jelly Roll, but I'm like, I got to work that weekend, so I can't take you. Your mom's going to take you. And now I'm concerned about that. I'm like, oh, now I got to figure out do I miss the race, so I can take my son to go see the one artist he wanted to see, or do I try to let her, because she wants to. She's got a heart of gold. I mean, even with all the things she's got on right now, she's still helping her grandmother out. So like feeding her dogs, taking care of her, she will not stop. But I'm like, babe, you cannot go to a place that's going to give you sensory overload and put you in a situation where you're going to, either harm yourself or get hurt or just make it worse for yourself. I'm like, we're gonna play this by ear. Come that weekend, I will find somebody to go with Jimmy, or unfortunately, he's gonna have to want to miss the concert.
Yeah,
and I don't happen. So,
well, I'm sure you'll figure it out. I know I'm going to see Zombie and Cooper.
oh, lucky.
I've seen Zombie a couple times, but I've never seen Cooper. And I mean, I think I'm running out of chances to see Cooper if I don't see him this time.
I think he was at the amphitheater, and I didn't even know it until the weekend after I saw everybody's like post on social media. I'm like, I did not know they were in Tampa. So, kind of upset about that. And then
it's interesting because me and my wife have two different music tastes. I like, Zombie, Cooper, that kind of stuff. She likes country. Like we just went to the George Strait concert where he was 110,000 people in freaking Kyle Stadium. So yeah,
that's us too. Like where I'm in the old school '80s rock and roll. It's funny. It's surprising. My daughter came down this summer and she looked at me. She's like, "Dad, can you play Guns N' Roses?" I'm like, "Come again? Like, what do you know about Guns N' Roses?" She's like, "Oh, I love them." And I'm like, and then she like Googled like the nearest record store, which is one right down the street. And I'm like, we can go to a record store. I have no problem with it. I would rather spend all my money at a record store than Disney. And she's looking for Metallica, Twisted Sister. Then she's also looking for Sublime. She's looking for Kid Rock. She's looking for Limp Bizkit. I'm like, what happened to the little girl who used to dress up in pink princess outfits always singing this Disney sing-along? And she's like, Dad, that shit's over. I'm like, what happened to the little girl who didn't cuss either?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll let that one slide, but damn.
She's your kid. What do you expect?
But what's funny is like, that's the thing is like, we also listen to rock and roll, but we also listen to a lot of country.
Yeah.
Like, we're actually going to try and go see Chris Stapleton's coming to town. So we're trying to see if we can get tickets to go see him. And then there was somebody else coming to town. Darius Rucker. He was on tour with somebody else. And I want to go see him because I actually do really like Darius Rucker. Even though I used to call his old band Hootie and the Blowjob. But he was a pretty awesome dude.
Yeah.
But
the other one I want to see that's coming here is you mentioned it, Limp Bizkit. But the opening band is Corey Feldman.
Yeah, I heard he is. Yeah, he's been hanging out with Fred Durst a lot.
So the opening band is Corey Feldman. It's one of those things I'm like, I don't think the music is going to be that good, but I just want to see the train wreck that's Corey Feldman on stage.
No, I cannot believe what happened there. So funny that you say Corey Feldman, because my daughter's also getting into a lot of '80s movies. Her favorite movie right now is Lost Boys. I want
to watch that. I own it. I have the DVD. I think I have like 4 copies of that DVD because that's always been one of my favorites. But
I've got it. But I also bought it and put it on a tablet. But what I also did was I went in and I also bought the other 2 that came out. There's 3 Lost Boys, right? Yeah. And I watched the other 2 and I was like, I regret all decisions for buying these 2.
Yep.
I'm like the Thirst and the Blood, or the Thirst and what was the other one? Can't think of the third one.
No, they were all bad.
But yeah, I was just like, what happened to this guy?
Oh, he went off the rails. I mean, Corey Feldman, I mean, anything you see him now, he's gone. But
I think all that happened when Corey Haim died.
Yeah, Corey Haim. Yeah.
Corey Haim.
Well, they had a lot of issues. I mean, Corey Haim was really into drugs. Corey Feldman, he did, but then came out of it. But it's all the things of being a child star, everything we wanted, and we didn't realize how horrible it really was. Yeah. But yeah,
she's been like I said, when she told me she's all into all '80s, I was like, no. And she even found that down in Miami, there's a store that's all '80s. It's the old school '80s pinballs, video games, T-shirts, food, snacks, everything. I'm like, when we make a trip to Miami for other things, we'll add that to the list. But I'm not going to go down.
I didn't know where that is when I go to Miami.
So,
yeah, but the only time we go to Miami is because we're going on a cruise. But
we go to Port Canaveral. We just came back from one back in March, and my girlfriend. She's never been on one. I've been on 11 cruises, I think now.
We did the Jay and Silent Bob cruise.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, it was phenomenal.
Don't imagine.
Because they were there. Freaking, it was both Jay and Silent Bob, and then you had Randall, and I mean everybody. Ethan Suplee, which I did a walk around he did a walk with the group because I don't know if you've seen Ethan Suplee. He's jacked now. He's like lost all the weight and he's jacked. So he did an inspirational walk with everyone. But I mean, it was a party. It was a 3-day party on the cruise. And they did all these things. They did different podcast recordings, and then they did script readings of Mallrats 2. They read the script of Mallrats 2, so I know what that was what that's, if it's ever made, what it's supposed to be. And then another one called Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaw?
Yeah, it's like this town in freaking Canada. It's an entire thing based off, basically it's Jaws, but Jaws is a moose. It's a car. It's a whole cartoon thing, and they read the script for it. I mean,
oh my God.
Yeah, it's as ridiculous as it sounds, but it sounded amazing listening to the script. I mean, just the ideas that he has in his head. But Mallrats, Mallrats 2 was an interesting, like reading the script and what it's supposed to be. I'm like, that's an actual interesting. I would love to see that movie.
I'm interested in seeing Moose Jaw. I want to see what kind of Sharknado path it takes.
Oh yeah, and it's supposed to be a cartoon, which makes it even better. I mean, it's like,
really? See, I don't know about that. I used to love cartoons, but I can't get into the animated movies. Like for some reason, it doesn't click with me. Like it doesn't.
Well, and I don't think it was supposed to be a movie. I think it's supposed to be like a series.
Or
so, but it was one of those things. But it's one of the like it's a script that he's written, but hasn't been like taken by anybody yet.
Got it. That would be interesting. I mean, I would probably watch just because of the fact that it's called Moose Jaw.
Oh yeah, and then it was just like, of course, my wife bought the drink package, so I had to make sure that was worth our while. I'm like, once she got it, and I'm like, it costs how much? And I'm like doing the math in my head. I'm like, I got to drink like 15 drinks a day.
Yep.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
So we went on a cruise. This is 2016, I think it was, and I bought the drink package. And there was a big old party cruise. So me and a buddy of mine, we rented a room together. And I'm like, dude, we're not spending time in this room. So if you want to bunk together, save some money, that's cool. Like, I just want to have a good time. So we bought the drink package. Unfortunately, he got pissed off at me because the day we left the Bahamas to go back for day at sea before we went home, I lost my rights to buy alcohol on the ship. So I got so blacked out drunk. Apparently, I pissed and I puked in apparently a employee bathroom behind the 21 and over deck. I just walked back there, did it, and then kept on going. And I guess they got it on camera and they saw me going down the hallway. I guess I was taking my shorts off before I walked in the room. And then the next morning I wake up and there's a piece of paper shoved under our door. And it says, due to a few complaints and some situations that happened on board at such and such time, your alcoholic beverage purchasing privileges have been revoked for the remainder of the cruise. And I'm like, I got one more day of alcohol to buy. But I was like, damn it. But before I found out about the drink package, I smuggled on a bottle of Jack Daniels in a wine bottle. So I still had alcohol for the next day.
There you go.
Very, very moderate with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we had the drink package, but it was one of those ones I just pretty much kept myself in a nice buzz almost the whole trip.
Yeah, that's what I do now. Like when I go on a cruise, I grab a few of my cigars. I'm a big cigar guy. I'll grab a few cigars. I'll go find a place on the boat, and then I'll grab myself a bourbon or a rum and just sit there and relax. I mean, I don't do the casino. I mean, I used to play casino a lot, but I don't do it anymore. But I don't do that
much.
I sit back, relax. I find the spot. What's funny is they'll let cigarette smokers, but they won't let cigar smokers on the boat. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
So
yeah, and I quit smoking cigarettes years ago.
Oh.
But I never smoked cigarettes.
Huh?
I'll still smoke a cigar.
No, I've got a humidor full of these. Matter of fact, I'm sitting in the podcast I'm going to the lounge.
What cracked me up is when I did that, because I just did the Ragnar like a month ago up in Washington. And of course, flying up there, my wife got like the freaking red eye. We left here, had to leave the house at 2 a.m. for like a 4 o'clock flight. Got up there. By the time I got to my buddy's house, it's like 10 o'clock, and I'd have been up for almost 24 hours. And with the race happening in the morning, so I should probably go to sleep right now. He makes mead, so I have to try his mead. So we're sitting out on the back porch drinking mead and smoking cigars until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh God!
And then I go read the Ragnar the next morning. So
See, that's the one. So when I fly out of town, when we're working with Spartan, we fly out of town on Thursday. So we all get to the hotel, and then Friday morning we're on site. But every time I fly out of town, I always fly in early as possibly can because I want to explore the city or a place I've never been. So I go to Newberry for the second year last year, and then right across from the hotel is a cigar lounge. I literally walked right over there and I sat there the entire day because I got there super early and I'm like, yeah, I'll see who's in town. I'll find out who's going to want to go hang out with the cigars. And then so I get over there and then they lost their liquor license. I was like, well, that's no fun. He's like, well, I got wine. I'm like, that's still no fun. I don't do wine.
Yeah.
But
yeah, my wife does wine. I'm not a big wine drinker. I will if that's my only option, but
I'll do wine. Like we go to a couple wineries around here all the time, and then she's got her one wine she likes, and I got one I like. But I'm like, with these, it's always bourbon. That's just me. Like that's one thing I do when I travel too. Like when I'm also traveling, is I like to find a distillery that's in the state that I'm traveling to. I want to find something from that distillery. And when I was in Charlotte, I found out there was a place, the Whiskey Prison was actually right outside in not Covington. What's the name of that small town? It's about 20 minutes away from the Columbus Motor Speedway. And I'm like, the first time I was in Newberry, South Carolina with Aztec, I saw this really awesome label for a bourbon. And it was the label of the original inmate intake that they reprinted and they use that as their bourbon label. I'm like, that's really awesome. He's like, oh, it's about 120 bucks. I'm like, well, that's going to stay right here because I have to fly home and I don't want to take a $120 bottle. But the next year I was there in in Charlotte, the day I was getting ready to fly home, I found out that distillery was right by the hotel we were staying at. And right by the club. Cool. So I was like, all right, next year, if I get Charlotte, I'm going directly there. And that's exactly what I did. I get over there. It's a prison built in 1920s. It had not a very big place, but it was like one of the ones like you see from Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where they have no gates, no fences, no nothing. It was just one guard tower, one building, and a lunch hall. And they turned it into a distillery, and it was absolutely amazing. I bought 2 bottles of bourbon, and I brought it home. So
nice.
So I gave my dad a bourbon tour of all the bourbons that I've got. I'm literally 99 bottles of bourbon on the wall.
I wish.
I mean, it's stuff I've collected over years. Some of the stuff is like my everyday drinker. Like I've got this bottle of Bullet. That's like one of my everyday drinkers. My sippers, I make my old fashions with it. Like I don't drink like heavy alcohol like to get drunk. I just do it to sip on. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I've got a bunch but most of mine the bottles are empty. But
I got a bunch sitting right here that are empty. I got my Angel's Envy, my Crown Royal, my Jack Daniels, and another Jack Daniels over
here. We usually like whiskey or bourbon. I know one of the things that I found on here, they've got a pecans and praline whiskey.
Pecans and praline whiskey?
Yep.
That sounds maybe interesting. I don't know.
It's actually pretty good. And it's like 80 proof.
Really?
Yeah.
Next time I'm out there in Texas, I'll have to try to find that.
It's actually pretty good. You just go to Specs, man. Specs has got everything, especially if you find the big ones.
Oh, there's a Specs right by the hotel when we go to Dallas. When we go to Granbury. Yep. I discovered Specs not last year, but the year before when I first went to Dallas. And I was like, what is this store? He's like, this is Specs. I was like, why does it feel like heaven in here? He's like, because we've got pretty much everything. And I'm like, yeah, I see that. Yeah. My wallet doesn't like it right now.
Yeah, pretty much I found in Texas, my 2 favorite places to go are Specs and Buc-ee's. So.
Oh, we have Buc-ee's here now. I absolutely love it. Holy hell. Yeah. When we went to go see Matt Rife, I made a detour specifically to go over by Daytona. So I go to this Buc-ee's. All my times going to Texas, never got a chance to stop at Buc-ee's. I was very disappointed in myself. And so we finally stopped over at the one over here that they built in Daytona. And I walked inside. I'm like, what the hell did I just walk into? I'm like, my son sees the beef jerky wall, and I'm like, what is this over here? Why is there like 500 varieties of beef jerky? And then I hear the guy say, fresh brisket. I'm like, excuse me? And I went straight to that line. And then all of a sudden there's a whole aisle full of different kinds of nuts. And I'm like, if Wawa, and like I grew up on Wawa in Philadelphia, like that was been my store. But I'm like, if Wawa and Walmart had a baby, it became Buc-ee's. That's exactly what it is. It felt like I was walking inside of a Walmart.
I always told everyone it's like if Costco and Love's had a baby.
That's a good one too.
Because they also have the 100 and I think the one down here by us has 102 gas pumps.
Yeah, I think this one only had 40. It wasn't as it's a gas pump area, but I remember when I was in Texas and we drove by the Buc-ee's. It was 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And I remember looking at the back. I wasn't driving. I remember looking at the window. I'm like, what the hell is that? And they're like, and they both looked at me from the front seat and they're like, you don't know what Buc-ee's is? I'm like, what's a Buc-ee's? And I got the look of death and I got shunned for the rest of the weekend, as in I was the outcast. I'm like, dude, I don't live here. I don't know what the Buc-ee's is. He's like, the Buc-ee's is the god of gas stations. Mm-hmm. He's like, so you'd be going there right now. I'm like, okay, can we go tomorrow? And I was like, oh wait, we got to work.
Yeah, I did when I did Ragnar, the 10 mile that I had to do, which I ran across the Deception Pass Bridge, which is the big bridge in Washington. Early in the morning, I think I started running at 4 a.m. I ran wearing a Buc-ee's onesie.
I see that a lot now. I see a lot of people wearing Buc-ee's outfits. As a matter of fact, my friend Jeff that I was telling you about, that we're going to be going to Vermont later this year, so he can finally beat the Ultra. He always shows up wearing his Buc-ee face mask. He bought the Gator mask. Mm-hmm. He always wears that, and he always has the short Buc-ee shorts.
Yeah.
I was like, when I finally saw the stuff, I'm like, listen, I love Buc-ee's. I think this is an absolutely amazing place. I have a T-shirt, and that is it. And I bought a shot glass. Sorry. But I'm like, I'm not buying the onesie. I'm not buying the bandanas. I'm not buying the pajamas, the shorts, and all this stuff. I'm like, I'll stick in this realm of T-shirts.
See, and I did only because I was, from living in Washington and all my friends, and then moving to Texas. It was kind of like I'm a Texas guy now. But, it was, but I'll be honest, running that early in the morning, it was so cold that the Buc-ee's onesie, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm wearing this.
Oh, yeah. And then that's a win then. Sure.
Yeah. So we should probably wrap this up, though. Don usually likes me to keep it about an hour, and we're definitely over that. But
we're like an hour 30, I think.
Yeah, no, it happens. It's been great. We're going to have to do this again because there's so many things and more that we can talk about. So, let me know if you ever want to get on again.
Yeah, we'll talk about Midwest OCR in September for their inaugural race.
Nice.
But I think that's the same weekend they're going to Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, I think he's going to be going to Kilimanjaro, and a couple of the other team are going to still go out and do some of do that one, I believe. So
yeah, I'm gonna get on social media. I'm gonna see who's gonna go because I know a few people live up in that area. So it's supposed to be a really fun race. It's the people that Dana and Aaron are the people that created Race Ready Obstacles, and finally got into that. I don't know if they were pressure. I gotta ask the story, but they finally decided that they're gonna open up their own OCR. They make all these stuff. So why not actually build their own race altogether? So they have their obstacle at Savage. I think Spartan actually has a few. So I'm excited. They contacted Rob Lyday, or Sir Rob Da Vinci, as you guys must know. They asked him, but he's unfortunately doing a wedding. He's like, well, grab Bear. He's pretty good at it. I'm like, I will gladly become second to you, buddy. But yeah, it's supposed to be a pretty awesome race. I'm really excited to be up there.
That sounds fun. I'm gonna try and figure out if I can get it, because I got to try and get a few. But my problem is it's just work and everything else, and I'll have to see. Because I know I'm doing World's Toughest with the team and Dallas with the team. But other than that, I don't have any other plans coming up.
I'll definitely be in Dallas, so we can definitely hang out. We'll have to get together on Friday after I get done, because I'm hoping I'll be done set up early. I know Joey is always everybody from the team, when they find out when I'm in a race, they're always like, oh, come hang out at the Airbnb or wherever you guys are all hanging out. I'm like, one thing I got to find is a car, because a lot of times we have to share all the team members, so we'll figure it out. But yeah, we'll link up for Dallas, and then we'll go do dinner or something like that. Hang out Friday night.
Sounds good. We can do that.
So, all right, brother.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Yeah, definitely. See you guys soon.
All right.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.